Hey everybody, I wanted to share a story with you. It's a true story that happened about 26 years ago, I'd say. I think I was 20 years old when it happened. And it's something I think about every year during the Christmas season. And something I wanted to kind of share with everybody because it's really a beautiful, beautiful story. And I got to experience it firsthand. So I know the magic that it brought, and I know what it truly meant. And I know how much it makes the glow inside of me really light up when I think about this. So I want to share with you a story. I call it the story of Mer Kisma. And I want to change the names of all the people that are in this story for confidentiality reasons. I worked in a job where I worked with mentally disabled individuals or folks that just needed assistance in living. I used to tell people that I help people less fortunate than us deal with the everyday things in life that you and I take for granted. That was my job. So I worked with this guy named Peter. Peter was one of the individuals who lived in the home. Suffered from seizures quite often. Non-verbal adult, probably in his 40s, right? And then there was this guy Gary that I worked with. He was with the other staff member. Him and I worked together, and always liked working with Gary. He was a jovial guy, and we enjoyed taking everyone out in the house. We'd all go out to eat together, and we'd have a real good time. It was a great environment, a lot of good people. So one year, Peter's parents came to visit, and they brought some extra money. Not just some money to put in Peter's account so he can go out and grab a burger and go to the store for what he needs, but some extra money because they really wanted to buy a nice pair of shoes for himself because it was wintertime and Peter only would wear sneakers. He refused to wear anything but. So they wanted him to buy a nice pair of expensive, good sneakers with good traction as he was a little uneasy on his feet. He had tunnel vision as well. We drive out to Worcester, Massachusetts, and we went to a store called Zayre's, which it's long gone since. And we unload all four of the residents who lived in the house. We all went. 2 staff, 4 residents, minivan. We're on a road trip. Going to get Peter some sneakers. Now, Peter was he was a great guy. He was awesome. He communicated through some very mild sign language. Most of it was adapted to his own signs that weren't American Sign Language, but they were Peter signs. He would occasionally let out a moan or a kind of a mild yell to get attention. He would point at things that he needed or that he wanted to get. But that was as far as it went for communication. According to his personal log, he had been nonverbal for most of his entire life. Spoke very few words as a child, and that was it. Once he went into an institution, never spoke another word. We get out to Zayre's, we unload everybody from the car, and it's snowing like a son of a gun. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, here we are. It's Christmas Eve, and it's snowing like crazy. And we get to Zayre's, we unload everybody, and we're like, all right, let's get in, get in and get out. We come out of Zayre's, and when we come out, one of the things that Peter always did was he never threw out a pair of sneakers. He always kept his sneakers. So he would get his new sneakers, and he would always put them on at the store. And then he would take his old sneakers and put them in the box. And then he would take them home, and he would stack them in his closet. Every once in a while, his parents would come, and they would meet up with staff during the day to review a behavior plan or something. And they would take some of the older sneakers out of Peter's closet. But they kept them for him in case anything ever happened and he would want them to look for him. When we came out of Zayre's, Gary was loading the other individuals who lived in the house into the car. And Peter started, taking off across the parking lot. And he's very uneasy on his feet. And here he is, He can't see very well, and he's it's like snowing like crazy, and he's marching across the parking lot. And I'm yelling, Peter, what are you doing? The van's over here, buddy, the van's over here. And Peter's just marching away. So I go catch up to him, and I go to lead him by the arm, and I was like, hey, buddy, I'm right here, come on, let's come back to the car. And he pulls away from me and kind of, he yelled at me. And so I was like, okay, so I'm following him. And Gary yells, just keep following him, I'll catch up to you. And he's getting everyone else in the van. And we go all the way across this entire parking lot, all the way up toward the road. And all I'm thinking on the way to the road is, I got to make sure this guy stays safe. If he runs out or runs up to the road, I'm going to have to put a restraint on him. And I don't want to have to do that, but I can't let him get hurt, you know. And he can't see that well. I don't think he's trying to get hurt, but I just don't think he can see. And he stops at the bus stop, at the very edge of the road. There's one of them enclosed bus stops. Not enclosed, but it's enclosed on 3 sides. And he runs around the corner, and he's just standing there looking. I catch up to him. I'm out of breath. He's in much better shape than I am, even though he's just fast walking. I'm sliding all over the place in my dress shoes. This guy out-jogged me across the lot, I'll tell you that. So Gary pulls up and jumps out. And he just stops and he looks at me, and I'm pretty dumbfounded. There's a guy laying on the bench. He's covered up with a couple blankets, and he didn't have any shoes on his feet. He had socks on, but he had no shoes on. And it's snowing outside. And Dave walks up to him, and he hands him his old sneakers. He pokes the guy. The guy wakes up and looks at him, and he hands him his sneakers, his box. And the guy opens them up right away and immediately puts them on, and they fit. And the guy looks up at him, and there's just tears rolling down this guy's face. And he says, thank you. And he puts his hand out. And Peter smiles at him, shakes his hand. And I said to the guy, Merry Christmas, man. I was like, come on, Peter, we gotta get going, man. Covered in snow. And Peter looks at the guy and he says, Mer Kisma. Mer Kisma. Said it twice. And the guy looked at him and smiled. He had like one tooth. And he says, Mer Kisma to you too, buddy. It's one of the best lines I've ever heard in my life. Peter turned around. Biggest smile on his face I've ever seen. And marched back over to the van. Gary stood there, stunned. Gary had worked with Peter for 17 years at this point. I'd never heard a word out of him. I worked with Peter for 2 more years. I ran into Gary years later, and Gary was still working with him. No one still had ever heard a word from Peter. It's a pretty amazing thing. That Peter could talk. He chose not to his entire life. Probably traumatized from being put in an institution. Somehow this guy, as blind as he was, in snow, saw this guy as we pulled in, sleeping on this bench. And in his mind, in the mind of an adult who's been institutionalized, who goes to an adult day rehabilitation center and puts little candles in boxes, piecework, and makes like $3 a week. There's so much more in there. Peter taught me a lot. Just in that one night. He was happier going forward every time I worked with him. I'd always look at him and smile. And I'd say to him, I know you can talk. He would just look at me and smile. He never said a word. I feel light right now. I don't know. I just feel good. I love thinking back about Peter and thinking about that special moment that he shared with me. And I wanted to share it with you. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a joyous Kwanzaa, or just a bah humbug day. Whatever it is that fits into the day that we know as Christmas, I hope it's a good day. I hope it's a special day. I hope that, if nothing else, it's a peaceful and quiet day for you. Mer Kisma, everybody. Mer Kisma.